Hello, beautiful humans. Thank you so much for joining us here today. My name is Ayla Green. I am one of the co-authors in Begin It Now, and my chapter is called Goldilocks and Her Glorious Gut, and it is all about my very personal journey of how I traveled thousands of kilometers following my intuition to basically completely recreate my life and step into the greatest version of my life. So that is my chapter in the book. And what I want to speak to you about today is about my absolute passion / obsession with following my intuition, and why I feel so strongly that perhaps there is some magic or some medicine here for you as well. I guess my background, so that you know a little bit about me, is that I have a background, I have an honors in psychology, and I have done many things, but the majority of my work was actually working as a psychic for others, doing psychic readings, until I felt this call to transition into no longer doing one-to-one readings, but rather helping people, as many people as possible, really, to reconnect to the intuition within themselves. And that kind of feels like the greatest vision that I have for my life. And so what I want to do here today in this brief presentation, this little chat that we're going to have today, is really share, I guess, why I think intuition is this buried treasure within us all, and how to access it, how to know when our intuition is trying to speak to us, and how to actually access it. And we're going to have a little go at the end of this presentation of accessing our intuition together. So my main aim is that in this little moment, this gorgeous little cup of tea moment that we're going to share together, that you get a real tangible experience of what it's like to connect to this magic inside you, because I believe that that's the key to you living your greatest life. And so that's what I'm here to do, to help you do that, to help me do that, to help the world do that, so that we can together create a better world, a better life. So I want to start with this quote that you can see on the screen. This quote by Einstein, that the only real valuable thing is intuition. And as we know, Einstein, I mean, look, he's clearly one of the absolute leaders, thought leaders of our world. And when I found this quote years ago, this quote of his crossed my path, and I remember it always stayed with me, and I thought, if Einstein is saying this, there is truly something in this. And, you know, I came across many things that Einstein said talking about intuition, and he basically, he talks about his regularly. There's all these quotes with him talking about his claircognizance, which is that gut knowing, that deep gut knowing that we all have. And he talks about how ideas would just come to him. They would just come out of nowhere, not from his mind. They would just land inside him, and he would have this deep knowing that they were true, that they were right, for no reason other than this deep gut instinct. And he spoke about how the intuition is our greatest, most sacred gift, and the mind is just the tool to action the intuition. And I wanted to start with that quote to kind of open up this space as this sort of, you know, let's just to kind of maybe shift the perspective on the word intuition. You know, it's kind of like this woo-woo word. And I guess I wanted to sort of open up this space by saying, hey, you know, if it's good enough for Einstein to talk about as the most sacred gift that we actually own, maybe we should pause a minute and listen and go a bit more deeply and find out what is this thing? You know, what is he talking about? So I'd love to just also share another quote. So next slide, please. I have a gorgeous human bringing up slides like magical woo-woo goodness. So this next slide is a slide that is often attributed to Nelson Mandela, and it is the quote, "It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." And it's actually by Marianne Williamson. And I feel that both Marianne and Einstein, they're talking about the same thing. They're talking about this force, this power, this light inside us. And I think Marianne brings up a really important point, which is that it kind of scares the bejesus out of us. This concept that actually, what if this power inside us, what if this thing inside us is real? I think at some point, each and every one of us has had and it can come in so many ways, but some type of intuitive knowing, right? We've all had this kind of inner knowing about something. And I think that what both Einstein and Marianne are speaking about is, next slide, please, is that there is this spark of the universe that we carry within us. And I guess the metaphor that I sort of created this slide to kind of give you an image of what I'm talking about, and what I think that most of us know deep inside. Like, for anyone watching, there's probably something inside you that's kind of nodding quietly as you look at that slide going, that is accurate. I have something inside me too. But I think what happens when we tune into this energy of our intuition, or this spark, or sometimes it's called many things, like some people might call it the soul, the spirit, the higher self. I don't think the name matters. I think what matters is that we're talking about the same thing, which is, I like to have this visual of, if you imagine that this portal of light, that is the universal wisdom, the universal knowledge, like some people might call it God, some people might call it source, the universe. As I said, it doesn't matter what we want to call it. The metaphor that I have is that if you imagine that one very heaped tablespoon of that is inserted inside of every human being, and from the moment we are born, we have access to that, this piece of magic, this piece of universal wisdom. I think that what Marianne was speaking about in that quote of, it actually freaks us out, it completely freaks us out, is that what that means is that we have to work out how to access that treasure, that gift, that spark, that wisdom. And we don't know how to do that. We're not like delivered a toolkit of, this is how you understand your intuition. This is the path. This is what you have to do. No one knows that. And so I think what we do by default is that we listen to others. We listen to others, often very well-meaning others, around advice for our lives, around what should we do for a career? Should we or shouldn't we date that person? Should we or shouldn't we study that thing? Should we or shouldn't we move to this town, move into this house? We try to get information from the world around us, from the external, to create solutions for our life. And the only, little problema with this strategy is that, like, nobody actually knows what you need except you. It's such a downer. But it's actually the truth. And I think that this is what Einstein and Marianne Williamson and many other thought leaders, I didn't want to like barrage you with 20 quotes, but this is a piece of wisdom that is very extensively spread, in these, amongst many thought leaders, that what if the greatest gift, the greatest wisdom, the greatest access to the magic in our lives, what if that is inside us? And I truly think that it freaks us out. And it's easier to say, well, I don't know how to do that. So instead, I'm going to, watch podcasts, like listen to podcasts, watch YouTube videos and, read books. And don't get me wrong, I think that when guided, accessing tools in the world around us are an invaluable piece of our journey. And, amen. And I celebrate every human being being called to share a piece of their magic, a piece of their wisdom, and to support others on their journeys of, truth, of healing, of wisdom, of the greatest version of their life. But the only trick is that there's no ABC process for what you need personally. And the only way to access that is within. I know. It's a real, I feel you. I feel you. I wish it was different. I truly wish it was actually different. Next slide, my darling. So what I want to talk about is I want to talk about this concept, and I've just written this as a little bit of a play on words, because some of you might have heard about the clairs. They're called like the clairs or the 7 psychic languages. And so I've just, had a little play on words here and sort of saying on this slide here that we need to clairvestigate. We need to investigate our clairs in a kind of scientific way. We need to really start getting to know what is the way that our intuition is trying to talk to us, because the truth is it's trying to speak to us all day, every day. The only little problema is that we don't necessarily know how to listen. And if we do actually receive a piece of guidance, what we're generally taught to do by the outside world is to discard it, because there's no facts, there's no like solid backup that it's true. And instead we're told to listen to wisdom outside of us, well-meaning wisdom outside of us. So I want to talk about, what are we talking about here? What is intuition even? What is it? And let's just bring it down into the simplest concepts to make this very digestible. So I've got this little dude on the screen here to help you understand the 7 different psychic languages. And basically we have on the right-hand side of the screen, we've got 4 that are inside our head. And on the left-hand side of the screen, we've got 3 which are inside our body. So let's start with the ones inside our head. So we have clairvoyance, which is basically seeing. So some of you might actually, when you're trying to tune in to answering a question from within you, you might get a flash of a symbol. You might see an image in your mind. And that is clairvoyance. That is an inner seeing. Some of you might hear a word in your head or a sentence of like, go here, board that plane, take that trip, follow that person, you talk to that person. Like, I've had epic life-changing experiences. Actually, some of my best friends in my life, my deepest soul tribe, I've connected with by following my clairaudience and just going up and talking to randoms that I did not know, because my inner voice told me to do so and told me that it would change my life, which it proceeded to do. So that's clairaudience, which is just basically hearing with the inner ear. Then you have clairalience or clairgustance, and that is people who receive messages in the form of you might get a smell, like a waft of something that reminds you of something that gives you a message. You might get a taste of something that reminds you of something that gives you an inner message. So they're the ones that are in the head, and I've put them on the right side so they're just easy to remember. On the left are the ones that happen in our body. So there we have clairsentience. Now, clairsentience is where we get a sensation in the body. A really common one, and one that I get personally, is like a tingling running through the entire body. That is very, very common when something is a yes. So when I get a deep yes, for example, when I'm doing psychic readings for someone, which I still occasionally do, when something is a deep yes, or even just for my life, I just get a full-blown stream of tingling that runs just up and down through my body. When we're talking about clear empathy, or someone who's an empath is the more common term, what we're talking about is when someone gets an emotion or a feeling. So when you're clear empathic or an empath, what this means is that your body is talking to you, your intuition is talking to you through your emotions. So for me, what that looks like is that when I am a yes to something, I feel my whole body expands. I feel excitement, and I feel like I want to move towards it, and it feels exciting, and it feels warm. It feels like a yes. It feels benevolent. It feels good. And when something is a no, I feel all my energy retracts, and I just feel like I want to get as far back away from that thing as possible. And it feels like it's a negative feeling. It's a feeling I don't want to approach. So that's clear empathy and the concept of using emotions as a guide to your intuition. And the final one is claircognizance, which is the one that is the gut knowing, the one that I spoke of coming full circle at the beginning, that Einstein spoke about in many of his teachings, where he repeatedly talks about this gut knowing that something was the answer to everything he'd been looking for, and it would just appear like magic. So they are the psychic languages, okay? And next slide, please, my darling. So what I would like us to do is, and this is just obviously a very, very brief little journey that we're taking here today, but what I would like us to do today in this little chitty chat that we're having as we get to know each other a little bit is just this very simple reminder that really, when it comes down to it, there's only 3 steps. There's only 3 steps that you ever need to remember. This is not complex stuff, and there's nothing you actually need to learn, because the magic is already inside you. You don't need anybody to put the spark inside you. Your soul's in there. The spark is in there. All you need to do is to actually work out how to crack the code, how to read the languages. It's as though it's in like Sanskrit or Latin, or an ancient language that many of us have forgotten how to decode. And so there is a journey to remembering how to decode that. And so the first step is just to start practicing listening and observing. So that is just observing, how is your intuition speaking to you? And this is where you really become your own Einstein style scientist and investigator. That's where you start noticing, hey, wait a minute, I keep getting this repeat gut sense, like something just feels off, something just feels wrong, and so we start observing. I'd say for the next 3 days, my challenge to you is to just become your inner scientific observer and scientist, and watch, how is your body trying to communicate with you? How is your soul trying to give you messages? Because it is doing it. Let me guarantee that it is doing it. The only trick is that there might be a mismatch, in how you are receiving that guidance. Now, the next step is that once you start receiving little gut pieces of wisdom, little pieces of soul guidance and wisdom, the next step is to actually begin following those up with action. Because, oh, my darling, as much as I would really love it if all we had to do was listen and not take action, but actually that doesn't change our lives. The only thing that's going to change your life is to listen and then take action. It's unfortunate. I hear you. I feel your pain. But that is actually what needs to happen. And I guess the most important thing that I want to say is around step 3. It's around this trusting the timing, because we don't always understand why we're meant to take an action. And sometimes that action is extremely uncomfortable. Oh, wowzers. I wish that was not the truth, but I feel I need to just be completely transparent and tell you that this path of following your deepest wisdom, your genius, this magic inside you, this power force field inside you, this path of accessing that it is not always going to be easy. It's such a shame, right? I wish it was easy and just full of sparkly unicorns every day, but that's not how it rolls. Sometimes it's going to scare you. For example, for me, I have been guided to leave my entire life in Australia and to relocate overseas. I don't even fully know where yet. I'm just being given little pieces along the way and little steps to take along the way. And the chapter in the book has been talking about, is the chapter that I have in the book is talking about my journey, that as I've been following my intuition step by step along the way into this completely new version of my life in a new continent, in a whole new way. And I guess that's what I want for you, and that's what I want for everyone, is to find the courage to move past the fear and the resistance, and the little reptilian brainstem that wants to keep us alive and safe and do what's safe and comfortable, and to find and access the courage to trust that inner voice and to take the action and to trust the timing, because we don't always understand the timing. And sometimes things complete the process and the universe brings us the rewards and the results way after we would like it. I want everything stat. I don't know about you, but I want things like snappy Tom fast. But that's not how they work in the real world. The universe orchestrates things in, detailed, collaborative, very, very sort of, what I want to say, I guess, is complex ways that are way beyond our comprehension, but that there is a perfection to those if we're willing to trust. And it's like those moments where we have those magnificent synchronicities that most of us have had, one of those magic moments of timing where you're like, wow, and they were there right then when I was doing that, And so I guess that's what I want to kind of send you into, this exploratory world of exploring your intuition. And I want to now do a very, very, very tiny little embodied journey of me taking you into your soul to receive one little message today, right now. So without further ado, I would like you to take a deep breath deep into your belly. And just let that breath out. And take one more deep breath into your belly, holding that for a moment and letting it out. And one final breath into your heart, into your belly, and letting that out. And I would like you to just let your eyes shut down for a moment and just feel yourself on a perfect little forest path that feels safe and wondrous. And as you step out of that forest path into a clearing, you move from that clearing straight up a mountain as though you're in angel's wings, or sort of almost hovering straight up to the top of this precious soulscape, this landscape of your soul. And there is a portal waiting for you, a portal of magic with those 7 psychic languages right there: the seeing, the hearing, the smelling, the tasting, the sensing, the feeling, and the knowing. All 7 of them are there. And what I want you to do is just tune in. Which one of those is lit up for you right now? Which one of those feels like a yes? Which one of those feels like it wants to communicate with you? It wants you to dive more deeply and expand. Whichever one appears for you, trust it. And if none appear, feel free to go back, tune into this again, and see what you access in a second time round. Or ask yourself before you go to sleep tonight and see if you receive some wisdom before you wake up tomorrow. The next step I'd like you to do is to now tune in to see whether any being of any form appears for you as a guide or a messenger. That might be an angelic being, it might be an ancestor, it might be somebody from the earth, it might be an animal, it might be a god or a goddess, it might be an ascended master, it might be one of the star beings. It does not matter who it is. There are infinite numbers of beings who can support you. What I want you to do is to just tune in and trust yourself and see, does any being present for you right now? Does any being present for you right now? And if a being does present, I want you to ask, what is the message that you have for me today? What is the message that you have for me or for my life today? And just see what comes. Do you hear something? Do you see something? Do you smell or taste? Do you sense something? In your body as a sensation, do you get an emotion? Or do you have a gut knowing? Tuning in once again and reconnecting with this energy and asking, is there anything, any step that you need to action right now in your life? And just seeing what comes through. Any image, any words, any smell or taste, any sensation, any emotion, or any gut knowing. Because it's not just the message we receive, it's the action we have to take. Gathering that wisdom, thanking this precious being, and shining light upon your precious soul and the treasure within you. I now would like you to wave goodbye to these beings, wave goodbye to that magical portal, knowing that you can always return here, gently removing yourself out of this beautiful soulscape, feeling yourself glide all the way down the mountain, out through the clearing, finding yourself magically zipping back down that forest path, landing back directly in your body, completely in the here and in the now, in the present moment in time. I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much. Letting yourself just land back in your body. I want to thank you so much for trusting me as a guide in this little teensy micro journey that we've just taken into your soul, a super mini taster of you experiencing what is inside you and how easy it can be to access your wisdom. And I guess what I'd like to do to wrap up is just to let you know that if you like my energy, if you want to get to know me more, if you want to hang out with me, that I have a YouTube vlog, Ayla Green. You can find and access everything about me on my website, which is just aylagreen.com. And I'm in the process of creating all the back end, but I am about to share as a gift to you and as a gift to the world my entire 10-week program, which is a complete deep dive into accessing your intuition. And I'm about to share that as my gift to you, so that there's basically no excuses. That is everything I've learned in my 20 plus years as a psychic, with no stone unturned, of a gazillion different ways to find your inner voice and live your greatest version of your life in love, peace, and joy. I am so deeply honored to have been here with you today. I thank you. I thank you so much. And I wish you just every blessing, so much love for your journey. And I hope that our paths cross again, and that we get to hang out a little more. All my love.